Well, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It's good to have you here on DojoLIVE, connecting experts like you. And today, well, as ever, we have our fellow teammate, Nearsoftian Tulio Siragusa, broadcasting from LA. So, Tulio, it's a pleasure to have you here, as usual.
Hey, good afternoon. Looking forward to today. Thanks.
Absolutely. It's our pleasure, Tulio. And last but not least, I would like to introduce today's DojoLIVE guest, Mr. Peter Buckingham. He is the engineering and product leader and CTO and vice president of engineering at Waypoint. And of course, Peter's going to tell us all about Waypoint and of course about himself in a minute. So Peter, it's a pleasure to have you here on DojoLIVE. Welcome to today's show. You ready to get it started?
Absolutely. Thanks, Carlos. I'm really happy to be here and looking forward to having a good chat with you guys.
Absolutely. Same here. We're looking forward to it too, Peter. Okay. Well, Peter, I would like to start off today's conversation. Let's start with you and, of course, Waypoint. You're going to tell us all about Waypoint and, of course, about the platform, the real estate platform for well, you're going to tell us all about it in a minute, so I don't want to elaborate on that because you are the expert here. So tell us a little bit about you, Peter, and of course, tell us about Waypoint and how it all got started.
Cool. So let me just give a bit of background about who I am, and then I'll dive into Waypoint. So as you can probably guess, I have an accent, and you may not know where I am. I'm based here in San Francisco, so I don't sound like I'm from here. I grew up in Australia. I moved to the Bay Area about 20 years ago, and I've worked across a variety of different technology companies in the past 20 years. I was at NVIDIA for a number of years. I helped build up the GPU computing business there. I worked at Sun, where we helped establish some of the original object storage technology. And more recently, I've been doing startups. And there's a topic we'll talk about later, which will help understand that thread and that journey, but let me talk a little bit about Waypoint now. And so Waypoint is a company. We address the commercial real estate business. We've built out a platform for performance management to assist these commercial real estate businesses. And what does that mean, right? So we essentially have a SaaS analytics platform that also supports workflow. We pull in accounting data, expense and revenue data. We analyze that. We present it back to our users. We support them managing that, and as well as using our market analytics to support them making good decisions that will help them have highly effective businesses, and also to facilitate collaboration and communication across their teams. So.
Oh, thank you so much, Peter, for elaborating on Waypoint and of course, about yourself. So I'd like to move on. Before I pass on the mic to my teammate, Tulio, can you tell us about why you chose this particular topic, today's topic, which is technology, a truly exceptional aid to real business solutions. Can you tell us about why you chose this particular topic?
Yeah, and so it's kind of interesting. I was doing some deeper thinking about this before, but let me kind of give the overview. So I think often, particularly in Silicon Valley and in other areas, people get enamored with technology because it's cool or what it can do, or they think that they're solving difficult problems. But ultimately, we're in a business, right? We're not in academics. It's not a research exercise. We're trying to solve problems for our customers because our customers buy our products, and that's how we pay salaries and build out our business. And so I think there are times, and you see these trends in technology where there are things out there that folks are trying to find a business for. I kind of think you almost need to start from the other side, which is find a business problem that you can use technology to solve. And to me, that's kind of core to who I am. I mean, I want to solve business problems for our customers, and I want to be using cool and interesting technology to do it, not the other way around.
I see. Okay. Thank you so much, Peter, for elaborating on that, on today's topic. Okay. So, Tulio, do you want to take the mic?
Yeah.
I know you have some questions, so why don't you go ahead and start, and then while I wait for the questions to come on Twitter.
Well, I want to get right to it and understand what is the business problem that you're solving, and
Yeah.
are you disrupting anything that's currently the status quo?
Well, disrupt is a bit of a dirty word. I know it's a cool word these days. I'm not a fan. I would like to say that we're assisting and affecting change, right?
Okay.
But what are we doing, right? So you probably come across it all the time, but a lot of people are using Excel to solve their problems. They pull in these things. In the real estate business, they've traditionally used people to go and solve these problems, or analysts to come in and address these things. And there's a mix of how this information is stored, where it's stored, how it's stored, how can people pull it together, how can they make effective decisions. And this is in a variety of different ways. So I don't have a background in commercial real estate, so some of the stuff was new to me when I joined Waypoint. But often a building and a company may own 50, 100 more buildings. Our largest customer has thousands of buildings. Now, not all of these buildings have the same chart of accounts, so they may be storing their information in quite a different way. So they might have a building in LA, and they might have another building in Boston, and without doing something special, they can't compare these two buildings together. So for some of our customers, the first time that they can see information about all of their portfolio is when we pull that information into Waypoint, so they can go and have a look at this information together. And then we have about 2.5 billion square feet of accounting data for buildings in the US. And so what we can do is we can actually show how these buildings are doing compared to competitive buildings or similar buildings in the marketplace. So you may be able to look at building A and building B that you own and kind of say, okay, well, building A is doing better than building B. But now with Waypoint, you can kind of say, okay, well, building A and building B are both doing better than market. Or maybe they're both doing worse than market. And you kind of go, okay, it's time to go renegotiate my electricity prices or things like this. So fundamentally what Waypoint is doing is sort of pulling this stuff together and then taking this information, not just to be static dashboards, but to then dovetail into workflow processes. So there's probably a lot there. We could keep going on that one for a while.
So, but ultimately, what's the purpose of the platform? Is it for better yield management, better profits? What is it exactly that I would use it for?
Well, so a couple of things. I mean, fundamentally, where we've come from is expense management, although we pull in expense and revenue data. So, what you're trying to do is find opportunities to improve your business, but then also with the workflow aspects too. So one thing that you may not be aware of, but pretty much every month or every quarter, an asset manager will meet with their property managers and they'll try to reconcile their budget with their spend. Right? So, hey, I budgeted X amount for utilities this month. Why are we 15% over? Right? They sort of go through that reconciliation process to sort of close out the books. So first of all, that's a painful process about how that works today. And we've made that a lot less painful by pulling it into a platform and then allowing that collaboration to happen inside of the platform. You guys are probably both familiar with email hell of trying to figure out who has the latest version of what document, which is the right document, who said the last thing, who's got the ball now. And that's where SaaS platforms really shine, is trying to pull this in together to streamline that management and that communication. And that then dovetails into looking at the analytics that we have in terms of accounting data to understand what's really sort of going on. So one key aspect is how our analytics flow, feed into that workflow process. And by doing that in a streamlined way, we're now actually allowing our customers to do that more often and more regularly with substantially less pain. And then the other thing is to be able to go in and look through, comb through, mine through your data to identify what areas you might look for savings. So, we've done that for a couple of customers. One of our customers was able to identify $200,000 worth of savings by renegotiating a cleaning contract. They look in one region that they were paying this amount, a different region they were paying more, it's like, hang on, what's going on here? And they're able to go back, renegotiate, and save $200,000, every year on that contract.
Wow, that's awesome. So many moons ago, I was with PwC, and most M&A activities that failed because the companies couldn't get the synergies, the knowledge couldn't transfer properly at the deal level, right? So we actually ended up creating a platform that allowed collaboration between the lawyers, the bankers, all the deal points would be in there and all the documents, which enabled more of an easy way post the transaction to manage the actual synergies, right? Is this something that eventually will have collaboration with multiple vendors and such, or is it mostly an in-house workflow solution?
So there's a few different aspects. So the answer is somewhat nuanced. So if I use the example you just gave, so in the real estate world, there's a product called AE, Argus Enterprise, and pretty much everybody in real estate uses that to do the modeling to decide if they want to acquire a building. And as part of that model, they have sort of predicted performance, post deal. And what we're looking to do is to sort of pull in those post-deal pro forma cash flow models so that our users can actually go and see, hey, how am I doing compared to my model, right? Am I above or below? Is now a good time to sell this building? Should I hold on to it for a little bit longer? Because often there's a disconnect between what the people who are doing the acquisitions do and then the person who's responsible for managing the asset. And one of the interesting things that we can start to do is, since we have these large data sets about accounting data, we can also start to do some interesting sort of machine learning and data mining exercises to identify, say, good projects. So if we go and have a look across the US and we identify lobby retrofit means that you can increase your rental rates by 10%, we can help our customers identify what capital projects are the right capital projects to do to increase your revenue. Whether that just be that you want to increase the income that you get from that building, or you need to hit a particular revenue number to be able to flip that building and sell it quickly.
That's awesome. I've been through a couple of quote unquote disruptions where companies moved, or entire industries moved, from spreadsheets to workflow or business process management software. I remember in the ad tech space when the majority of publishers were managing things on spreadsheets, and a company I was with, we literally disrupted that flow by introducing a software that could manage and also manage the inventory. And one of the challenges was getting the clients ready, right? Are you seeing that? Because that's people are used to doing it a certain way. Are the markets more ready for this kind of change, and why do you think?
So it depends. I mean, a little aside, I remember having a chat with a good friend of mine, and he was doing a different startup, and we said, hey, we're all trying to disrupt Excel. And there are a lot of businesses out there that are trying to do exactly that, because Excel is a great product, right? So sometimes a little too good. So what we found is, so we're first into this space in real estate. There are other SaaS businesses that have started to penetrate real estate in different parts of the problem that have helped us too. So there's a company called VTS, or View the Space, that has gone in to help with leasing management and things like that. And they're a little bit ahead of us. And so some of that helped make commercial real estate more receptive to moving towards SaaS-based solutions for addressing these problems. But one of the challenges we find, and it's true of most enterprise software sales, is that people are just so busy, right? And so often, they want the solution, but they're not sure that they have the time, or they're a bit tired and aren't prepared to take the time to go and make that move. And so I think that's where we really have to make a compelling argument about what the end game is, how we actually make their lives better, and help demonstrate that. And some of that is with our customer stories, being able to send them and talk to people who are already using our product. But we've had to sort of go in and figure out how to do the right messaging, how to sort out the sales process, and also really clear up with our customers what it is that we're doing for them.
Right. And speaking of your customers, who are your customers specifically?
Yeah, so we have a range of different sorts of customers. So we have, like smaller, owner operators. So they have maybe 20, 30 buildings, relatively small investment fund. We have REITs, and maybe medical office REITs or things like that might have some hundreds of buildings. We have some Wall Street funds that have hundreds of buildings that they use. And then our largest customer is sort of an industrial. It manages industrial assets. So it's typically the classic customer of Waypoint is, loosely speaking, like a REIT. They have these buildings, they want to manage them, but we dovetail into sort of different flavors. So some of our customers are sort of limited partners, so they take investment, they go in and buy buildings as part of doing that. So we help them manage the information flow from their building operators all the way to help them do reporting to their general partners. And sometimes we have got a few sort of vertically integrated real estate firms as well. And relatively recently, I think the SEC is requiring them to justify that their fees are at market, so they can use some of the data that we have to help benchmark and validate and all of that as part of their regulatory reporting requirements.
It always helps a new product. But the actual user, who's the actual user? Is it an IT person, or is it a business? Who's the user?
So what we would have, so within a real estate firm, they might be called several different things, but loosely speaking, the core user of Waypoint is an asset manager. So an asset manager is somebody who might be responsible for half a dozen different properties within a particular region. We may have some property managers who have some responsibilities for reporting and managing the process, but they would only have access to sort of one or two buildings. Within the product, we have sort of role-based access control. So you only get to see the buildings that you're sort of have permissions to see. So then there may be a head of asset management, a VP of asset management who wants to sort of see an overall dashboard for the health of the organization. But the person who's most likely to be in it on a daily basis is this asset manager persona.
So, but I have a question about integration. But before we go there, I'm curious. Does the user experience play a big role in terms of adoption? Are you noticing that? Ease of use, how the information is presented?
Well, I think it's helpful. So and you guys may have seen this too, that in some of these industries that haven't been at the forefront of technology adoption, a lot of the user interfaces are sort of things that look at home in Windows 95, right? And so, but they go home, they use their iPad, they use their phone, and they have these very smooth, silky user experiences on their consumer devices. And as there are young people coming through these organizations, they're going, why can't we have the same experience with the business software that we need to use, right? And so I would say that with our product, we've gone in and we've done a good job about being very design focused to make it look and feel much more like a consumer app, but targeted at the enterprise. And I think that's certainly helpful. I think ultimately, though, design is important, but it needs to be designed in aid of that solution, right? So, a classic sort of, there are a few maxims that I use with my team, right? So, okay, well, I'm looking at this. What is the action that I'm going to be doing next, right? So if I'm a busy executive and I'm looking at a dashboard, I should be able to figure out what the next action is within 30 seconds or less. Otherwise, this is a waste of my time. In the same way, for our users who are using this on a regular basis, we need to minimize the number of clicks that they need to do to be able to get their job done, right? And these are fairly obvious sort of design principles, but often you can get enamored with the look without thinking about the usability.
You'd be surprised how many people don't put attention on those things, and they're really important for the same reason you mentioned. And people are used to the experience on their phone, so they want a similar experience. Curious about how predictability or AI or any of those things, are they going to play a role in this platform at some point, or are they already part of it? in terms of being able to predict things for the end user?
Well, so I think that there are a few things, and I would say we're at the experimental phases of some of these things. So if you look at data mining, I mean, like, so AI is a bit of a amorphous generic term. So if we look at data mining as an aspect of machine learning and AI, clearly there are ways that we can probably train something to go in and identify, transactions or accounts that might be out of sequence, right? So out of band. Hey, I remember we did a pilot with a particular customer, and their plumbing expenses were astronomically high in a particular month, and we're helped bring that to their attention. Turns out, there was a burst water main. That was but what we can do is start to use these techniques to kind of identify these bits and then bring them to the attention and allow them to sort of be addressed. Other aspects that we can kind of do is sort of predictive processes, right? So if you think about budgets, the way almost everybody does their budget is that they kind of look at, hey, what did I spend last year? Okay, well, I'll probably spend the same plus 3%. Boom, done, right? Whereas we have 2.5 billion square feet of data across the US. We can go and have a look at what trends are happening in similar buildings across the US and create a model that maybe will facilitate better and stronger budgeting for the future.
Cool. Carlos, I have a million more questions, but before I do that, are there any questions from the audience?
No, well, yeah, actually, we have one from internally from one of our teammates in recruiting. So she's got a question about the company culture. But before we get into that, let's Tulio, are you ready for our high-tech display, the chatbot?
Yeah. Let's do it.
Okay, cool. So I'm ready.
This is a highly integrated UI, UX, Twitter, non-hackable chatbot.
So here it is. I'm ready when you are, because, by the way, Peter, Tulio is so proprietary that Tulio has the red button, and I'm the one who actually...
Yeah, I'm the only one with the button.
Yeah. So go ahead, Tulio, I'm ready.
Here we go. Boom.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, if you have any questions for Peter, you can send them right here on Twitter. You know how you use it, right? Yeah. We have sound effects now. We have sound effects, So this is highly integrated with Twitter. If you have any questions for Peter, you know how to use Twitter, so just go here and go to DojoLIVE, send your questions. We'll read them back here live on the spot, and then Peter can respond. Or you can just simply keep an eye on our website, and it'll be right there. But for now, this is the way to go, like right now. So there you go. Okay, I'm ready to deactivate. Go.
Boom. Okay.
Deactivating. Cool. Thank you.
Go ahead and ask that question from one of our teammates.
Absolutely. Okay, we have a question from Dora Cortázar. She's one of our teammates on the recruiting team. Dora is asking specifically regarding your company culture. What are your guiding principles?
So actually, I guess I should have memorized our values before I came in here. But I think, ultimately, what is the top level thing? I think respect. I think respect is fundamentally important for anybody that you work with. What's interesting is anybody who has worked with Waypoint or who works here at Waypoint, they always comment on how much they love working with their colleagues, right? And I think, part of working at a startup, it's not quite like being in a cult, but it's a little like that. So it's a little bit painful. You got to get a lot of stuff done, and you work closely with other people. So you got to like them, right? You got to be able to have fun. You've got to be able to enjoy it, but you've got to be able to focus on getting things done. And so one of the things I love about my team is that we've got a good camaraderie. We work well together. We have a laugh. Occasionally we'll go out and grab a beer, but it's about learning, improving, and getting better at things. And so I think being team players, being focused on our craftsmanship, all of these things are important to sort of Waypoint. And I think what that results in it when it comes to sort of recruiting is it's fine to bring somebody in, and it's fine for them. Like I'm very focused on how do they grow, how can we develop them, how can we help them along their career path, and because nobody wants to be static, right? I mean, everybody wants to grow and improve, and so how do we do that, and how do we facilitate that at Waypoint? And that sort of dovetails into some of these technology pieces too, right? So what are the interesting things that we can be doing to solve customer problems, and how can we get out ahead of that? So AI is really interesting. I mean, like if you look at, so I worked at NVIDIA and helped build out some of the GPU computing work they're doing, and deep neural networks is really hot right now, and that's sort of been the next step for what NVIDIA did with that technology that we built out while I was there. And there's a lot of applications of this, and we have an interesting size data set where we can actually start to use some of these things and get really interesting insight and information with that.
Cool. I think we should title CEO Cult Network Organizer. Cult Technology Organizer. Just kidding. We're coming up on time, but I do have two questions. One is, can you walk us through the tech stack you've chosen and the role that plays in the integration? Because I'm assuming you have to do a massive amount of integration effort up front to get all these buildings up on running. Can you just walk us through a little bit of that?
Yeah, so there are a few different aspects of that. So I kind of, when I look at our architecture, I split it up, loosely speaking, into sort of 2, maybe 3 parts. So the key part that our customers use is the SaaS platform, and the technology stack that we use there. So our back end is using Laravel, and our front end, it's a PHP framework, a little bit like Ruby on Rails. And then our front end is implemented using React. We have, so the back end provides an API. So it's all RESTful APIs. So React will go and do RESTful requests to get the information that needs to be presented. And at some point, we may well migrate more to a GraphQL structure for that API, but that's sort of in the future. Then there's the backend data processing, which feeds in a bunch of information into that, which is a little bit different. So we have integrations into accounting systems, which is how we get the data from the buildings. So we need so we have a certain structure that we know how that looks like. We then have an ETL processing for that, which sort of transforms it into sort of a normalized way of looking at things. And then we have what we call benchmarking, basically an analytics processing, which transforms and does a certain amount of aggregation of that data that we then use to sort of present into the platform. We're in the process of rewriting that data backend, and I could probably bore you guys for many hours on what's going on there. But I mean, suffice to say that we're looking at some of the more modern data warehouse technologies to support that. I think our backend is sort of in the process of being rewritten using Python, and we are looking to. So I think in traditional data processing pipelines, there's a lot of sort of extraction and transform before the load. Whereas if you look at what happens today with these data warehouses, they're much more sophisticated at taking semi-structured data. And so I think if we can load something that's closer to that semi-structured data directly into the data warehouse, it gives us a lot of flexibility about how and what information we can present to our end users.
Cool. When you were talking about rewrite, I kept hearing in my head Pythons. Sounds like a really great platform. We're pretty much coming up on time, but I have one question, and this is more along the lines of any words of advice you have, any words of wisdom you have for other CTOs who are trying to solve business problems, any things you want to share with the audience, be great.
Well, I think this is true whether it be for technical or otherwise. I think it's always good to be open to information from other people, right? So often when you get to this role that I have today, you can think that you're smarter than everybody else, and sometimes you might be right. Most of the time, you're wrong. And regardless of even if that's true, you can learn something from everyone. Right. So I think you shouldn't fixate on a particular technology. You shouldn't fixate on a particular solution. You should try and understand the problem. There was actually, I forget who said this, but I was at SaaStr earlier this year, and they made quite an insightful comment, which was fall in love with the problem, not with the solution. Right. And what does that kind of mean to me? I mean, that means that, we need to understand what is that customer issue that we're trying to solve, not fall in love with how beautiful the solution that we've come up with, because in the end, the solution may be wrong. If we don't understand the problem, we may be building the wrong thing. And I think that's true both from solving business problems, but building organizations, trying to listen to people and grow and develop people too.
I love it. Thank you for your time. Appreciate it. We'll connect offline. I have a company I want to plug you guys together. I think you make some amazing things happen.
All right, awesome. Thank you. Thanks, guys.
Carlos, you're on mute. Let me see if I can unmute you.
Yes, I'm sorry. Apologize for that, folks. Okay, yes, well, as Tulio says, we need to wrap this up. And the only thing left for me to do, Peter, is to send you a warm, heartfelt thank you for having been with us today. And of course, for sharing your expertise and your insights with the audience and with us, and also with our guys here internally at Nearsoft, because we're talking about nearly 250 people. So again, thank you so much. We're going to be in touch, and as soon as we get the updates on the landing page, we'll send them over to you. And of course, you're more than welcome to make additions. One more final thing before we go is just a quick announcement about next week's interview. We are going to be speaking with Stephen Malik. He is the CEO of a company, it's an artificial intelligence company. We've been kind of big recently in artificial intelligence. We have had really nice conversations with AI companies recently. So I look forward to this one. I don't have the topic yet. He hasn't sent it over, but it'll be soon right there on the DojoLIVE website as usual. So it's dojo.nearsoft.com. So that's it, folks. That's next week, Wednesday, 1 o'clock Pacific. So stay tuned for that. Without further ado, again, this is your host, Carlos Ponce, from broadcasting live from Mexico City, and also, of course, Tulio Siragusa from LA. Tulio, and of course, thank you, Peter Buckingham, our guest today. Thank you for having me with us today. It was a pleasure, Peter, and an honor. We'll be in touch. And thank you, everyone. You have a wonderful afternoon, everyone.